and welcome back to Be Sharp Teachers TV. You know you're in the right place if you're a teacher who wants to teach with authenticity, loads of joy, and tons of success for you and your students. I'm your host, Wynn Godbold, and the founder of the International Academy of Be Sharp Teachers. Today in our episode, this Zap of Wynn for our Sunday, remember last week we talked about multitasking and how we really are not wired for that? Well, I hope that this Sunday, as you have come to Be Sharp Teachers TV, that you have put everything else aside and that you'll give me a few minutes of purely focused time to really take in the message of today. I'm going to share a little bit about why I'm doing today's message. We're going to talk about 3 Ps. I've done this before with 3 Ps, but not with these 3 Ps. So if you've seen a 3P video from me before, it's not been with these. Today we are actually going to go back and get refocused on 3 things that are going to help our classrooms run much better. And the reason I chose to bring these 3 Ps to you today is because I've been spending some time with teachers, of course, every week I do this, in their classrooms, and I've been hearing a lot recently of teachers saying, this year's class can't work in groups. I can't do group work in my room. I can't monitor groups. I have to have extra people in the room if we're going to do that kind of work. If I get manipulatives out, it'll be crazy. And so I'm not sure exactly if this is just the spring fever that has hit or if you've been this way all year long. But what we know is that there are times within the day that we want you, and you want as great teachers, to be able to focus in on the needs of a particular set of students so that you can really close up some gaps and then also get to the place where lots of us never get to enjoy in our careers, but to the place where you are extending children's knowledge as well. And the way to do that is when you can work with small groups of children and have the rest of your room working very well at the same time. Since I'm hearing a lot of frustration around that issue right now, I thought I'd bring this video to you today to talk about these 3 Ps. And the 3 Ps for this time are preparation, procedures, and praise. Now, I know that there are times in the school year where we are better and worse at being prepared. It's like the phases of the moon and the cycles we go through, and I get that. I'm going to encourage you right now to get back into, if you have left, a phase of really being prepared. And that is your room. Is it prepared for students to be in it? And I want you to think about, is the furniture in the right place? I know that seems very rudimentary, but by this time of the year, you've likely rearranged your furniture a few times, okay? Do you have a place prepared in advance in your classroom for children who need to time out, to separate away from the main group? You don't want to be stopping a lesson to deal with somebody's behavior and then have to find a place for them to sit. You really need to have a place for them to be alone, away from the crowd, but where they can still be engaged in the lesson with you. Okay, so that's part of being prepared. Preparedness also happens before you leave your home. Are you prepared mentally, emotionally, physically for a day with children? Okay? Have you dressed appropriately for your job? I know that sounds crazy, but if you're wearing heels and it's in a dress and it's one of those days you're going to be on the floor, you're going to be working with kids on the floor, you got to think about these things before you get there, right? So we need to think about the preparation that we do mentally, emotionally, physically, and then within our room. How are the chairs set up? Do I have a table or a bookcase or a book basket that's in the flow pattern of my room, and so it disrupts things? Do I have an activity prepared at my computer station so that when the computers go offline or kids lose the activity they were doing, if they can't get it back, do you have a basket at your computer table that they readily go in with an activity they can do without bothering you in your group? Do you have clear procedures? Now we're moving on to the next P, which is procedures established in your classroom. Have you prepared your children for being able to work the way that you want them to work? I know that sometimes you think, yes, kids ought to know how to do this. They're in the 4th grade. They should know how to work in groups by now, but they don't. Okay? So I want you to go back and really take a hard look at your way that your room is set up and the way that you prep to work. You know, for a chef, for a pilot, for a painter, the most important thing they do is to prepare. And it's the same way for us as teachers. The most important thing we do is to prepare ourselves, prepare our children, prepare our rooms. So when we're talking about preparing our children, now we go into procedures. And if you have not reviewed procedures with your class since the beginning of the year or since Christmas, it's no wonder that they're not able to work the way that you want them to work. I know that a lot of you have either been on spring break, or you're going on spring break, or you are just now coming back from spring break. This is a perfect time to go back over procedures with the children in your classroom. Remember, in life we have procedures. We know what to do when the stoplight, when we're driving our car, it turns red, green, or yellow. There's a procedure for what do. We either stop, we slow down, or we go. There is a procedure that we follow for when that light turns red. If we want to make a right-hand turn, we know we can stop and then we can continue to move. That's the procedure we go through. It's dictated by the light, but we all know and live by it. At a wedding, for goodness sake, there's a procedure for how do we leave from the church or the chapel, right? We don't get up and leave before the bride and groom leave. They go out first. Their families go out next. Then the general population goes out. It's the bride and groom, and then the wedding party, and then the families at that. So there's a procedure for everything that we do in life. It should be no different in your classroom. Procedures should be taught to children. These are the social norms when you enter room 213 or room 5. This is how it's done in here. And remind your children that when in Rome, we do as the Romans do. So we follow those procedures. And this is one that comes to me all the time. I fly every week. And when I'm on the airplane, guess what? There's a procedure. The stewards or flight attendants will first lay out, the discipline. You don't get up when the light is on for the seatbelts. You can't use your cell phones at a particular time, 10 minutes before takeoff and landing. You can only use your electronics when you've been notified that it is safe to do so. And, you fasten your seatbelt and you know where your life vest is. They tell you all of these things. They review those procedures every time I get on a flight. Just because I've heard them before doesn't mean that they don't go over them. I sometimes am, on a very small planes, and it could be filled with people who fly every day just like I do. It doesn't matter. They are going to go over the procedures and the routines every time. Okay? So think about those real life examples in places that you have procedures that you must follow, or there are consequences for those. Now, we're not going down the consequences line today. Today is really about preparing yourself, your room, and your children. We do that through, the work we do before we get to school, and then we do it through those procedures that we have established. And believe me, guys, you have to think through the procedure for everything. How do you get called on? How do you get help? How do you get to the bathroom, and at what times is it appropriate to do that? How do we move paper around in this room? How do we physically move around this room? How do we line up? How do we walk down the hallway? How do we re-enter the classroom? All of those things are procedures. You and I, because we have lived for longer than these children, know when you're going down the hallway, we don't cause a ruckus. We, want to honor the learning environment of everybody who's still in their classroom, and that's why we are not loud in the hallways. But guess what? Children don't know those things, particularly your younger children, who the whole world revolves around them independently. They need you to remind them of the procedures. If you are going to be able to get to the place where you can work with kids in small groups, where you can do things around the room, have half the class doing this and you're doing another project with the other half of the class. To get to those places, you've got to have procedures in place for them. And sometimes I know you have to break it down to the barest bones of procedures for your kids. But if you're struggling right now, or if you could say to yourself honestly, if I came to you in your classroom or in your school and I said, hey, we're going to do this group work, and your first reaction, your gut reaction is to say, no, we're not with this class this year. If that's you, and I've met a lot of teachers the last couple weeks, that's what they've been saying to me, you have to come back. It's okay. Come on back to the preparation, to the procedures, okay? I'm going to give you one other clue for this week's Zap of Wynn here for your Be Sharp Teachers TV episode. And because I told you we had 3 P's. We've done preparation, procedures, and the last one is praise. Now, I want you to think about the way that you are praising children. This doesn't mean, hey, good job, Johnny. All right, that was awesome work, Susie. Miguel, great, loved it. What does that mean? And nobody else in the room is benefiting from what that means. But if you praise what they do, okay, if you praise the activity that they do, what I was just showing was encouraging the student, okay? We don't want to encourage, encouraging the student is fine, but what I'm centering you on here today is to praise the activity that the student has done. For instance, Miguel, I love the way you put your book back in your cubby and walked quietly back to your seat. Now, every child in the room knows exactly why Miguel is getting my satisfaction. He's receiving encouragement from me. So I might follow that statement. I praised his activity. I love the way that you put your book in your cubby and walked quietly back to your seat. Keep up the good work. There's the encouragement for the student. So you want to praise the activity and then encourage the student. Another example, and this could be for the whole class or for a great number in your class, you could say, boys and girls, I really appreciate the way that you are taking turns raising your hands during this exciting activity so we can all learn from each other and hear what each other has to say. Keep up that great work. Let's continue the activity. I praised the activity, the actions the students were doing. I encouraged all of my students to continue. Okay? So when you are getting the gut reaction of, I can't do that small group work, my kids can't work independently, that will never happen in my classroom. Not with this year's kids. Heard that one this week. I didn't like hearing that. But not with this year's kids. If that's what's in your gut, I want you to come on back. Even though it's towards the end of the year, there's no better time than spring if we ever get to feel spring. I don't think we're going to get it. I think we're just going to go straight to summer. But have a springtime in your classroom. And the springtime is to clean it up, clear it out, revisit preparation, procedures, and praise. And it's the praise of the activity. Remember that one. That may be a new one for you today. So go with those 3 P's and let's see if between now and the end of the year you can get to some of that awesome group work, the remediation of students, pushing kids forward who are on grade level, and also get to the exciting point where you can actually enrich the lives of some of your kids. Okay? So try out those 3 P's. If you would, come on back. Let us know how this video has affected you in your classroom, or if you got a sudden aha today, I want you to share it with us down here below the video. And hey, here's the other thing I want you to know. We have coming up, special for our Academy members, another Ed Pro interview. So on April the 25th, we will be actually interviewing the creator of a program called Writing from Imagination. And I'll invite you to be on the line with us as we hear from Stephen Bergor about how he brought his teaching experiences and his creative passions together to create Writing from Imagination, which enables classroom teachers to really bring the best of kids' writing out of them through high definition photography, audio clips, and some videos and things. It's really cool stuff, and I want you to be able to hear it. So head on over to bsharp.us. Join to be a member of the International Academy of B Sharp Teachers. Membership is totally free, and you will be able to be on the line with Stephen Bergor and I on April the 25th on our Ed Pro interview. It's just one more of those exciting things that we have for our Academy members, but you can't get it if you don't join. So head over there now, and I will see you guys next Sunday on B Sharp Teachers TV right here for another Zap of Wynn. Y'all have a great weekend. Bye.